Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We're back on the dev server because they updated it once again, and I thought we would have a look at the new version of Eastern Europe and also the thoughts that Gaijin has put out about the map and what they're doing with it. Another thing also on the dev server right now is they are testing the APHE shell damage changes, which are right here. So if you're on the dev server, you can go ahead with it. Some people have asked about my comment on these things and whether they should be doing it or not. I'll talk about it in a separate video, and because I think it deserves at least its general discussion points when it comes to the voting and when it comes to what is the point in having the votes if they're just going to do the opposite. Anyway, let's get into the versions of Eastern Europe. So what's kind of interesting about the map is they've added a new one in, and this is kind of BR specific. So this is the one that we had a look at before where they've blown the bridges. So this first mission will be played at basically 4-0 and below when it comes to the BRs. And then they have a Domination 2. This one will be 4-0 and above. So this is the one that you're going to see the most compared to the other version that we saw previously, which is just designed for lower tier vehicles. So the lower tier vehicles will have a more kind of defined space that they're going to fight in, basically two heads smashing against each other with about 4 or 5 experienced players doing this and then just killing everybody, because that's how that map will work now. When it comes to the larger version, they have added a few other things in. They've also modeled the armor on the Alkalid, by the way, so just to kind of let you know about that. But the idea is, at least from the first one to blow the bridges, was to make the spawn camping areas a little bit harder to get to. But I suppose at high BRs that isn't an issue for some reason, because of the fact that they've created this map here. I said before they should make a map like this, and I think overall it's pretty positive. You can see that they've moved the caps, so they're very close together, and that means that there's going to be a lot of fighting within them. So let's just have a look around and kind of show you the differences between the standard map that you might be used to and obviously this one, the main one being the capture zones, but also they have kept some of the changes that are around this area as well. So it looks like Eastern Europe is getting quite a large makeover at the higher echelons. If you're used to this version of Eastern Europe, by the way, you might remember about this cap. It was actually more here. It was a conquest version of Eastern Europe, and it was really tough to play, if I'm honest. It wasn't the easiest thing to do, but you can see how quick it is for high BR vehicles to get to this area and be able to get to Bravo. This one I believe is like the battle zone, if I remember from the battle version of the map. The cap's pretty tiny and will favor this side over here, since they have a lot of ways to be able to get to it, and also at the same time they have some pretty distinct roads. They still haven't blocked off this area over here though, so you can still basically just do the... You can still basically just do like the spawn camping that you wanted to do previously, if that's, you know, where you're at. So what you can do from that spawn is you can go up here to here, and then go across the back, and then if you sit around this little plateau or up here, you can see that I'm not spotted by the spawn here, and they've given you a little artificial hill, so you can kind of sit behind it and just shoot people over here. You can also do it from this area. You can see this. So they haven't actually changed any of the geometry of the map in that way, and you're able just to kind of do what you could do previously. From positions like this, you can actually cover both spawns. So I know that the hill's in the way, but you have like this area that you can see here, and then also you can actually move up here with the higher contour and see over the houses. So yeah, it's still going to have the fundamental issues that it had before. From here you can still spawn camp, you can shoot over there, which is one of the issues they were trying to solve with the bridge changes. You literally only get seen on the map here. They really should expand this area out to like this area, just to make it a bit easier for people, because you just spawn in an open field, so against CAS and also against people who are spawn camping, they'll just annihilate you. The other thing is this position here is going to be super deadly to both of these caps. So looking at the bridges, because we haven't seen them yet, the bridges are intact. So all of them are here, and now this kind of weird island that they showed makes sense. So on the destroyed version of the bridges, this island was also here, but you couldn't get to it because of the destroyed bridges. Well, now you can. So that gives you, I suppose, a crossing point and a little bit of additional cover, but I mean, it's like sandbags, so it's not really going to do too much. I suppose if you forget to spawn at the right place. It does give a position where you can just sit between the spawns, but that's usually not a great idea to do. Looking at the approach to alpha for this side, they have kept the stuff that they said they were going to do previously. So you can see that it's a lot easier to kind of push in. I'm having some frame rate dips, which is kind of weird. So that's, you know, kind of nice. The the domination zone has actually been pushed forward here. So as we talked about, it's more centralized, and this area to fight around, like, I don't know, like it's such a awkward, wonky place to actually sit in, and I feel like making the capture zones might be a little bit better if they were slightly bigger. That might be an idea to go for, but these capture zones are really close together. So that one is what, 0.2 kilometers away, so 200 meters from this. And then that one is, what, 140 meters? So there's going to be a lot of fighting in this internal area, which actually ends up meaning people will sit here and shoot into it, because you'll be able to see from those positions all three of the caps very easily. One of the ways that it was a little bit harder to do before was the simple fact that you know, the points were here, here, and here, so it was hard to cover all of them at the same time, but now it will be quite easy from positions over here, ones that they haven't changed. One of the cool things about this change, though, is it means that you don't have to deal with the death road. So the cap used to be around here, right, for this side, and what that meant is people could, like, set up in this position over here, which is a really nice position, like, let's be honest. It's one they probably should have changed. They added more foliage to it, but yeah, it's one of those which is kind of nuts, because you can go hold down and just shoot down. So this position here, you could hold this road, and then you could also hold this area where there's a through shot there. And then what you could do from here is you could reposition and then deal with the guys who are flanking here, and deal with the guys who are flanking over here. And then you could reposition and deal with the guys flanking over here. So you could cover both flanks and also cover the road. And since if you wanted to cap the main point, which was over here, like the home point or whatever you would want to call it, you would then have to cross here, or you would have to go to the right. So that gave this position, great control, because you could take out anything that tried to cross, unless, you know, they smoked. But even then, you know, vehicles would have to be vulnerable. And then also from this position, what you could used to do with higher tanks was cover the bridges, but I don't think you can do it with this one because it's a little bit too low. So basically now, if you spawn here, there is no reason to go over here unless you're flanking around, and by that you just do this. So this position is a lot weaker because of that, which is pretty cool. So instead people are going to sit in the town and go from there. It's also much harder to get to this position, which was the standard camping position to spawn camp. People would just go woo like this, sit here, and you were not on the map, and you couldn't be seen. So instead people, you know, would hammer here. So instead what people are going to do is woo, and then that, and then go to these windmills back here. Because the windmills, or at least around the windmills, you can see into both spawns. It's a little bit harder to do, but generally you can still do it. This change, by the way, overall, I think is much better than the previous map. I generally think it's a large improvement, instead of just blowing the bridges. Having more spawns means that you can counter spawn campers a little bit better. It also counters CAS, because CAS don't have to just stare at a specific position. But here you can see you can still cover the spawn, and then you can cover the roads out of the spawn over there, especially if they decide to go to the hill. So you can just cover this area, and then also this area, and this area. So this is basically where people will go to spawn camp instead. But as I said, they've made it a little bit harder. So generally, these changes are a lot more positive than the previous ones that we saw. I prefer this type of like setup. I would probably push these a little bit further back, or I would make it so these zones can be kind of contested zones. So what does that mean? So instead of just having like one person on the zone to stop the cap, what it would be is it would be a majority cap. So if you had 3 people and they had 2 people, it would cap in your favor by +1, right? Because these caps are so close and there's so many buildings between them. There's going to be a lot of artillery fire. There's going to be a lot of flanking and spanking. It's going to be a bit crazy. And if you just have like one person like holding all of this, which, you know, you could easily do by just sitting on the cap and not being able to push, you know, past the walls, then it would be better to set it up so it's like a kind of a collected cap. So these changes are good. Hopefully they pursue with these. I'm pretty sure this was the idea in the first place, though, because they did say a new version of Eastern Europe was added, but they just didn't show it. And I'm hoping that in the future we can see more spawns, so, you know, less effect on CAS, and then also less spawn camping. That's basically the way you fix this stuff. There was also an issue with the simulator mission on this map, where the bridges were destroyed, so you couldn't really go anywhere. They're fixing that, so they're not going to blow the bridges for that. So as always, hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.